Hello there, music lovers, fan of the audio, and those who love something for the go. Today I'm going to do a review on the Alpha and Delta KS1 EMs. Those are in-ear monitors, earphones, or how you would like to call them. Those are for portability. Those are made for those who want a very affordable EM on the go. They are below the $50 price point, so they are a good comparison to JDA3, also to Fios F9, the original one, also to Shozi Hibiki, which was at the same price point, and to Knowledge Zenith ZS10. There are quite a few other options in that price point. The $50 price range is very full, and at the point of making this video, I'm honestly terrified that at some point nobody will ever get to know all of those very affordable EMs. At the same time, there is the thing that most of them only have a very short lifespan, so they are produced, sold in a few pieces, then they are phased out. With Alpha and Delta, they usually have a longer run with their products, so it makes sense that I do a review about their KS1 EMs. Shozi is also a company which sells their products for a really long period of time. Dunu, Fio, there are a few that really do a good job at keeping their products alive, so the reviews are relevant even after 1 year or 2 years after the original release date. Anyways, today's star is an 8mm graphene driver. This means that there is a single dynamic driver in each ear. It also has a rated power of just 1 milliwatt. Just 1 milliwatt, it means that it is drivable from any source that has 1 milliwatt of power, like any smartphone in this world. They are drivable out of anything. There is nothing that doesn't drive them. Even my recorder's headphone output will drive those. They also have a pretty high sensitivity, and they have a very low impedance of just 16 ohms, so they will pick up hiss. They pick up hiss, and I noticed hiss with them from a lot of sources. They are hissy. When unboxing them, you reveal the things inside. They are absolutely stunning. This is one of the most beautiful EMs I have ever seen, and I haven't said that for a while. If you have been a fan of Audiophile-Heaven for a while, you know that I used to say that a lot of things were beautiful. And until recently, not many were beautiful anymore, only sad products. So the KS1 came to show us what beauty looks like. This is a beautiful, absolutely beautiful EM. It looks stunning. It is made of resin and it is 3D printed, which makes it a very interesting design EM, especially for their price point. They are quite so affordable that I am amazed they managed to pull out such a look. At that price point, I would purchase them for the design, even if they didn't sound so good, but happily they sound pretty good. Inside the other case, that was a case, not necessarily a piece of cartoon, you can find a little pouch, which is also the carrying bag, and I feel that this kind of fabric is very artistic. It is not the most useful type because it doesn't offer that much protection against crushing, but it offers good protection against falling and good protection against scratches. They come with 8 pairs of tips, and that is very good. They have even foam tips, and that is a good thing as well because they will need foam tips for that sound. They have a very unique sound. Very V-shaped, very aggressive. They also have a lot of silicone tips, and you will be using the foam tips. I can tell you that from the start. You will be using so much only the foam tips. Also some EQ maybe. The cable is in a little plastic pouch thingy. They have very usual 2-pin connectors, and they didn't even go for MMCX connectors, so I respect Alpha and Delta for that. They've been really nice about the quality of their product, especially the build quality. Just look at those. There are EMs that cost, I don't know, there are EMs at $300 that don't have this build quality, and those guys are pushing it for $50 or less. And the cables also, you know which is the left and which is the right, because on the inner part they have a little colored dot which tells you which is the left and which is the right. Blue is for left, red is for right. The EMs also tell you which is the left and which is the right. It is written right there. This is the left, and I pair it with the left cable. The cable and the EM should always do this S shape, and this is the shape it should have if you connected the right cable to the right EM. Now that both are connected, you can see that they look even better with the cable installed, and as I've told you, I am absolutely blown away by what the guys at Alpha and Delta did with their KS1. The cable is single-ended in 3.5 millimeters. I guess it will be a while until someone starts putting 2.5 millimeters cable with adapters in the sub $50 area. The IEMs are not the most comfortable in the world. There is some driver flex, and I do not like that very much. Because I do not like driver flex, once you have the IEMs installed, you can see that they look just as good even when they are in your ears. They provide excellent passive noise isolation. I'm having between 20 and 25 decibels of passive noise isolation. I don't hear a thing, not even my own voice. I could sing with wearing this and be really happy. That is absolutely amazing. On the other hand, the driver flex can be a bit uncomfortable because it can push the driver back and you would need to readjust the EM until you get the proper fit. That is something to take into account because with foam tips that will not be such an issue. The foam tip lets the air pass a bit more, and although it isolates you even more, it tones out some of the heights, but also gives them a very, very good comfort. They are good for running, they are good for jogging, they are good for walking, and they are good for music listening. This is the point of an EM. I mean, they should be good for music listening, and they are. The point here is that they have a very aggressively V-shaped sound. They have a thick, very thick and impactful low end. They have a very sparkly treble that can be shouty, it can be a bit sibilant, and it can be a bit harsh because the character is not quite wet enough to avoid all sharpness and all of the harshness. On the other hand, for the sub $50 price point, which is the price point we are in, they are absolutely outstanding. They have a pretty natural soundstage. It is not wide, but it is not the most narrow ever. They beat Knowledge Zenith AS10 and ZC10 big time in terms of soundstage. They also can be driven from virtually anything, so name it, your FIO BTR3K, your smartphone, your FIO M5, your Shenling M0. They are so easy to drive that I could easily recommend them on the go. They are a go EM, so even if you run out of battery from a player, you can use basically anything, even an old radio with a headphone output should do. This being said, they pick up hiss quite easily because they are both sensitive and they have a very low impedance, which means that hissy sources will have a constant hissing in the background, which is like a sound that you always hear. It should be much lower than the volume of your music though, and you shouldn't really be able to hear it while listening to music. In terms of comparisons with, for example, if I'm comparing the KS1 from Alpha and Delta with Jade EA3, I think that the KS1 looks better, but the GA3 has a better comfort because they do not have the driver flex that KS1 has. The sound is more balanced and more natural on the FIO Jade EA3, but it has more overall detail on the Alpha and Delta KS1. It has more texture, and although it is more sibilant, it also tends to have more sparkle in the treble and more air, more space between instruments. The soundstage is wider. If I'm comparing Alpha and Delta with something like the Shozi Hibiki, this one has way better bass, it has better bass reach in the lows, it has more impact in the sub bass, and it has much better treble. On the other hand, the Shozi Hibiki has considerably better overall mid-range. They have more detail in the mids. The mid is much more forward in the Shozi Hibiki, while in the Alpha and Delta KS1 the mid-range is pretty recessed. So if you are a mid-range fan, the Shozi Hibiki should make an easy choice, while if you like a more natural sound, the Alpha and Delta KS1 will make a more obvious choice. This being said, on this price point of the beneath $50 price range, the Alpha and Delta KS1 is a true steal, just as their name would imply, the KS. They are steal because they are affordable, they are beautifully built, they will outlive your players. I'm pretty sure about that because they are made from one piece. There is nothing to fall apart in them. They have detachable cables, which is nice. I mean, the cable is not of the very good quality, but it is not the cheapest cable either. So if you needed a spare cable, you could purchase those for $40, for $50, instead of purchasing a secondary cable for pretty much the same price. So yeah, you could have those. You have an EM, you have a high quality EM, and you have a cable. I think that the guys at Alpha and Delta did a pretty sweet job in creating an affordable EM that is fairly comfortable. It is not the most uncomfortable I've tested because the EM shell is quite ergonomic. It has a very rounded shape. So in this sense, compared with Knowledge Zenith, AS10 and ZC10 and such, that ones were quite uncomfortable compared to the very rounded and very ergonomically designed Alpha and Delta KS1. In terms of driving, I would probably recommend you to stick with something like the FIO M6 if you can, because the M6 has very low overall noise, it has very low hissing, and that would make a very good pair with the Alpha and Delta KS1. Or I would recommend going for Shamling M0. Shamling M0 also has very low hissing and background noise, but is a bit thicker, should bring the mid-range a bit more forward on the Alpha and Delta KS1. Hidizs AP80 is also a good option because it had a very good EQ implemented, and you could push the mid-range a bit more forward on the Alpha and Delta KS1, which should make the whole sound more natural. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing to Audiophile-Heaven on YouTube. Smash that like button if you enjoyed this video, please, it really helps me out. I hope you have a lovely weekend there, and we'll see each other soon. Bye bye!